By this point, it's pretty safe to say that all of you watching now know that Pyro is the next star system upcoming to the Star Citizen Persistent Universe in the upcoming Alpha 4.0. And 2 weeks ago, we started ISC's journey through the jump point to get there. And it's a good one. You should check it out if you haven't already. But what is there actually to do in the Pyro system once we get there? It's not all just pandemonium and chaos. To start, nearly every mission type and every gameplay system we've developed for Stanton works there as well. That means a life of cargo, salvage, mining, bounty hunting missions, and more are already ready to go due to their systemic development. But that's just the head start. There are also a number of new mission types, gameplay systems, and wholly unique experiences that arrive with Pyro and Alpha 4.0, and we'll be spending the next several weeks discussing them. Starting this week with What We Do in Space, where we're talking about a new kind of space station built with the more efficient level design lessons learned in Stanton. A brand new, ongoing, never stopping, never quitting contested zone system that'll reward you more and more the longer you can hold it. And a sneak peek at asteroid bases that'll require both ship and FPS combat combined to overcome and explore for its rewards. Let's find out more.
So let's start with space stations.
So in Pyro we have 12 space stations. One of them is the jump point station that you arrive at, coming from Stanton.
When you arrive in the gas cloud, you can't see every part of the station. It's impossible. In your cockpit, you're just gonna see like a bit of it. And then when you get closer, you're gonna see like, oh yeah, that's huge.
They are quite a bit bigger and more involved than you would find in Stanton.
The exteriors are very aggressive looking, they're very spiky, there's an almost fractal nature to it.
The space stations are owned to like different like factions, so you can see like the factions branding on top of some of the stations. And then you can see like, oh, if like rough and ready, you're gonna have problems.
The Rough and Ready gang is one of our main operators in the Pyro system. Almost every single rest stop refueling station is gonna be run by Rough and Ready. They started off back in 2939 when this enforcer named Rook had had enough. He had this great plan about how they could take over the fuel operations in the system, and the ruling council of the headhunters deemed that it was too risky. But a lot of other people had gotten wind of Rook's plans, and so he ended up splintering off and kind of forming his own gang. Rook decided to take on this symbology of rest and relax, which is a known refueling station, kind of do their own spin on it. And they took the double R and they became Rough and Ready. While they're totally down to defend their territory and they're not gonna take any BS from anyone who's opening fire or hurting their business, they also don't get dragged unnecessarily into conflict.
Each of the 12 stations will have a unique exterior, and some of the ones will be Starlight Service Station, Obituary, a very happy name, Gaslight, but maybe that's not what it's really called, and Megumi Refueling, which is not as easy as it sounds to say. And of course there's Checkmate Station, which is a little bit different to how you may have seen it in Pyro Playground and CitizenCon, and there's also Ruin Station.
What sets Ruin apart? It's the big LEO. It was originally Checkmate that you would have seen in Pyro, but it's been greatly expanded. It has significantly revised and enlarged interior with much more gameplay opportunity.
When you arrive in a Pyro space station, you'll recognize some of the activities that you already do in Stanton to be done there as well.
They have the same facilities, things like weapon shops, food courts, hangars.
You have direct access from your hangar to the cargo deck, and that's where you can buy your commodities or sell them, and then you can return right away into your instance hangar and then go off on your trip. From there you can also access the external freight elevators to easily load your whole Cs, and so we've made these gameplay loops much less tiring in Pyro.
And in Ruin Station we'll have something called the Ghost Arena, which we'll let you discover for yourselves.
So a contested zone Design-wise, we are likening them to kind of a classic MMO dungeon. Instead of the primary way of accessing this content being behind missions, we are taking more of an open approach.
It is an open space for players to go in and farm, get loot, some special rewards, and explore the station even more.
So what I really like about the contested zones is the fact that they are right there next to the social space. It's really quick access, which I think is something that makes Pyro unique. You can be in the social space, you have your shops, you have the hub, you have the clinic, but the contested zone is right there, often through just a door, an airlock.
This will be very visually distinctive. It'll be very cold, there'll be ice along the walls. Some of these don't have the life support systems. The power will be generally out.
We have booby traps and mines. You'll hear the odd rustling inside the vents with some potential surprises in it.
At some point you'll be facing multiple doors, and every door is giving you different things to fight, different rewards, and so you have to choose where to go. And some of them will be blocked through some puzzle elements, like key cards, to allow you to open the door and access the wing.
Some areas are more secure than others with better rewards. Other areas are highly contested, and there's more players coming into that space and more like an arena. We really want to take advantage of that, the vibe for Pyro of PvP, of lawlessness, of being out, sometimes alone, but hopefully you're there with your buddies to help back you up.
The zone inhabits various types of outlaws. These inhabitants are a constant population within this space. So they're not spawned via missions, they just exist there, and they will respawn over time. So this is a constantly inhabited space with a constant flow of challenges. It also inhabits creatures. Whilst we currently only have copions, we are also thinking about expanding that potentially in the future.
The ends could, you could be fighting bosses.
A boss fight?
Yes, we would definitely want bosses. They could be guarding the best loot. They could be mission-based bosses that spawn as well. So whether these boss fights come to the contested zones or not, in 4.0 or beyond, is still up for development, but I would personally really like to see that kind of thing added to contested zones to make them feel special.
So we're adding contested zones for 4.0 really to capitalize on the atmosphere, the lawlessness, having players compete with one another, where there's really that tension of getting that loot out of there, but having to fight your way to do it. Fight your way in, fight your way out.
This is all PvP, so you gotta be careful and always be watching out for other players.
Sounds like a meat grinder.
It could be a meat grinder, especially being in Pyro with the PvP aspect. That's something that we are designing towards. Players may choose to go in to hunt other players, which I think adds a really interesting element too, because not only are you wary of the traps, the puzzles, but you have to kind of be wary, watch your back, ambushes from players, that kind of stuff.
For the social core, we've left the green zones so that people can still have an enjoyable social experience. So you don't have to worry about getting ganked every 2 minutes by other players, at least for the social space.
Unlike the global events that you know, such as Siege of Orison or Overdrive, these are spaces that always exist and that you can always go into.
Loot that you've already gotten is going to come back. The time door that we have is timed based off of the world. So you have a really huge incentive to stay there, to keep holding your ground, to really make this your space as long as you can before other people take it from you. And I think that's one of the things that's really exciting to me about bringing this to Pyro.
Pyro has a number of asteroid clusters. They are the newer, larger asteroid clusters, so they should look and feel very different to the ones in Stanton.
Asteroid bases, for us, are really trying to take advantage of our universe better in terms of the locations that we have. Space is big, space is massive, but for our game, often we don't take as much usage of it as we should. We're taking procedural asteroids and we're carving these locations into it. And we're really providing a lot of variety in the gameplay in a form factor space.
Essentially, we're utilizing the station interior set that we have created, and we're wrapping them around an asteroid, a big asteroid that allows us to be a lot more versatile with the kit that we have and create some interesting layouts for you.
Asteroid Base gives us the opportunity to create missions where you can be in space, then you have to go on the interior to continue the mission. We made a little twist of the bunker, little space where we can have some missions, but in space.
Sometimes we could start with ship combat. You could have heavily defended areas on the outside. You could be engaging enemies outside on the landing pad.
Some of them even have copion infestations.
That should be fun.
That should be fun.
Asteroid bases are not just for combat. Because they're procedural asteroids, one of the things that's really cool about them is we can have multiple routes into these locations. So players can EVA and enter through a vent hatch. You could find your way in through a hangar. You could go straight through the front door. But there's a lot of room for exploration, finding loot that's been hidden there with loot crates, and find certain items that are important for you that you want to use to progress through Pyro, things that you haven't seen before in Stanton.
You tell us what that is?
No, I don't want to spoil it.
As a baseline, we wanted to bring Pyro up to par with all the content that we already have in Stanton, but also make it unique. We believe that with the addition of contested zones and asteroid stations and all the other little pieces will give us unique aspects that really make it feel different from Stanton.
We're really looking forward to you finally getting your hands on the full experience of the stations. There's been a lot of effort put into them. There's a lot more diversity now inside and outside of the stations, both in terms of visuals and design.
Asteroid bases and contested zones, for us, are two really exciting new location types that we're bringing to the fans for Pyro. It's not a global event, so it's long-term. It's always going to be there. You can come back, get new cool stuff, advance your progression, and have fun with your friends and your party, your orgs, and, have a great time in Pyro.
What else did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Rough and Ready have cornered the market on space stations in the Pyro system, and that green zones are in place to make the experience in station social areas a bit more manageable for players. That does not extend to the new contested zones, where chaos and carnage will reign supreme, and those who can temper it, solve their puzzles, collect their treasures, and escape will be rewarded for their efforts. And that asteroid bases should allow for a combined arms assault to explore what's contained within, and Christopher doesn't want me to say just yet. We want to make sure it'll work the way we want it to. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Don't forget to vote in the Ship Showdown when that happens. Don't forget to keep testing 3.24 and 4.0 on PTU when that happens. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development when that happens, and we'll see you all here next week for Fire.